He was working for ESPN, did a phenomenal job. Our good friend, Chael Sonnen, standing by. Come on, that was good. That was good, Chael. Come on, that was good stuff.
Tantalizing interview, Ariel. Do you have like a little pin needle you put in your shoe that you have to step down on every now and then to keep away? Yeah, that was riveting stuff, my friend. Riveting stuff. Great show so far, Ariel.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Our numbers are through the roof, and now I expect them to go even further through the roof now that you're here. I have to ask you about a few things. I know we have a lot to discuss, but first, the most important thing right off the bat, Saturday night, you're there as Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas are arguing about steaks and cheeseburgers, and I don't know, God knows what else, and then they cut to you, and I look at your face. What is going through your mind as those two crazy people are arguing about each, but I don't even know what, gourmet chef, cheese. What is it? What are you thinking at that juncture?
Questioning Teddy Atlas on boxing is a very bold move right there. Now, trying to go head-to-head with Stephen A. Smith and commentating is equally as tough. But, I mean, come on, you've got the genius Teddy Atlas himself sitting right there telling you how things were. Let the man talk.
So you felt like Stephen A. kind of overstepped his boundaries. Fair?
I'm saying when it comes to the world of boxing, I just don't know if there's a more reputable mind. I mean, I think who would you even compare Teddy Atlas to? Maybe you go to a Freddie Roach, maybe a Max Kellerman. I mean, wow, he really is an expert. He really is an expert, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. I'm not jumping in the middle. What are you trying to do to me? Right? I almost fell for that, Ariel. I'm not getting in the middle of it, but I will tell you this. When it comes to an analysis on boxing, just as a straight shoot, man, Teddy's the man.
Yeah, he is the man. For you personally, being there all week, being a part of that, being sort of the MMA voice for ESPN's coverage, the worldwide leader, what was the experience like? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, I had an absolute blast. You know, it was such an incredible event, and particularly in hindsight, I mean, to tell you how amazed, and that's the right word, without exaggeration, how amazed I was with Conor would be very difficult for me. I don't know that I have the rhetorical skills. It was incredible. I mean, first off, he shouldn't have been there. People were saying he didn't belong. Those people were right. People were saying that fight shouldn't be made. The commission shouldn't even sanction it. Historically speaking, they're right. There's never been a fight with such disparaging records in the history of commissions that's been sanctioned. The rule is 3. You and I can fight if I've had 3 fights and you've had none, or I've had 6 fights and you've had 3. That's the rule. It's not the law, but that's the rule of thumb. 49 versus 0. And Conor came out, he did exactly what he said he would do. He came across the ring, he put it on Floyd. There was 9 seconds left in the first round, Ariel, before Floyd took a hand and moved it in a forward direction. He never even tried to land a punch. And the second round and the third round weren't a whole lot different. And the incompetent judges of the Nevada State Athletic Commission still only gave Conor 1 round. That should be a bigger story here. I mean, if that fight would have gone the distance, they were getting ready to rob him. And we see that in boxing constantly. But because this didn't go to the cards, it isn't being, there was no spotlight put on it, but there should be. That was absolutely absurd. And what was also incredible, Ariel, Conor's putting the pressure on him. Floyd's not doing anything back. Finally, Floyd gets off a piece of offense with a straight right. Conor slips it and throws an uppercut followed by a hook, followed by a cross. To explain to you in words how difficult that combination is, to slip and throw an uppercut, so hard to do. Fighters know that is almost an impossible combination. Conor landed, and that's when all of us in the arena that were the smart marks sit back and go, oh my God, this guy can box.
I got the feeling afterwards, despite the loss, that the MMA fighting community, the fighters, you guys, not us, you guys, held your heads a bit higher. Your chests were a little puffier. That finally MMA, this sport where, what do boxers say about MMA fighters? You can't box. You can't move your head. You can't hang. And I know we're talking about one guy, but it felt to me like everyone was proud and had his back, and despite the loss, felt like he represented them well. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, and I think a few of us tried to put our fingerprints on the fight too, but the reality was this was Conor. Sure. I don't know that he represented all of MMA. He represented one rare and special athlete. I will not be part of anybody saying anything different. I was a naysayer before this thing started, but I should have been. I had evidence on my side. You've got a guy that's never done it against a guy that's never lost at it. That's a fair statement, and I made it several times. But Ariel, Conor went out. He kept his nerves about him. Conor never gets enough credit for the way he deals with pressure. What's the golden rule? You put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If I had to go in there and box the best boxer in the world, my size, Ariel, that is the most frightening scenario I could think of. Take all my tools away, and I just got to go out there and get punched in the face. Really hard thing to do. Conor dealt with it. He held up. I mean, the number one thing that kind of fear and stress does to you, and we all deal with it on some level, I would just imagine that his would have been higher for this, is it drains your battery. It takes your energy away. It did take Conor's energy away. But a half hour later, my God, it was amazing what he did. And Ariel, there was a great thing that Dana White said at the post-fight press conference where Dana just laid it out there and he said, guys, in boxing, you start with 3 rounds. You go to 4 rounds. You graduate to 6 rounds. Conor stepped into a 12-round environment and made it a half hour with the baddest dude to have ever done it. Come on, man. Conor McGregor is amazing. There's nothing else you can say.
I appreciate that insight. Speaking of Dana White, you're a promoter. Put yourself in his shoes. His guy lost, but yet he did all that. He went that far. Was this a victory for Dana and the UFC?
Oh, yeah. Tremendous victory. Everybody won here. You know, never in my life have I seen an entire integrity of a sport put on trial. Boxing is a dying sport. I say this as a boxer. I boxed before I did MMA. I did wrestling before I did MMA. I'll fully admit those sports, we just don't have a lot of fans. Boxing is not recognized by the NCAA, any level, Division 1, 2, or 3. They're not recognized in any high school in this country. The only reputable body with any level of integrity that says boxing is still a sport that needs to be contested is the International Olympic Committee. It is a dying sport. Boxing defended itself. It passed the test. MMA stood up. Conor McGregor and the brand stood up. UFC, as far as going, look, we're not putting on a circus here. We think we've got a competitive event. We're coming to the table. Sure, there's a lot of money, but we really think we have something here. They all held up, and every fan in that arena left satisfied. That's the first time I've seen Floyd have to fight. He found himself in there with a street fighter. What none of us knew about Conor is how well he could box. Yes, we knew he could throw the punches, but can he deal with them? Of course he can't deal with them. Well, wrong. Slipping, uppercuts, hooks, dig into the body. These are very hard things to do. They look easy when you see them on TV, Ariel. They're very hard things to do, and Conor did it all, and he did it for half of an hour.
Yeah. I can't speak to the pay-per-view issues because I was there live, but I could speak to this. The only negative that I came away with was I thought the crowd was very disappointing. It wasn't full, a lot of empty sections, no energy, didn't feel like a Conor fight. There was points in the night when they were stalling, there was no music. It just felt very dead in there. Did you feel like it was a bit lack? Even the entrances were lack. It just felt a bit off until the fight delivered, but the buildup felt very sort of empty in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that, but you and I are spoiled with MMA. You know, what Versari and Dana White do, I mean, that is a totally different deal, and we are entertained from bell to bell as fans that are live. I don't know if the people at home would have felt that. They probably saw something pretty cool. I hear you on that, but they are different products. And yeah, I mean, look, the only thing more embellished than Floyd Mayweather's personal wealth is Floyd Mayweather's pay-per-view numbers. Ariel, you've reported this. ESPN, everybody's guilty of saying Pacquiao versus Floyd is the highest fight of all time at 4.4 million. Not DirecTV, of which I'm a shareholder, not the Dish Network, not Comcast, not Time Warner, not one person backed those numbers. The 4.4 million is nowhere close to what Pacquiao and Mayweather did. That got put out on a press report that you all ate up. If this fight wants to be the biggest fight of all time, all it needs to do is put out a report that says it did 5 million. Absolutely not true. No more real than that belt that they brung out and put around Floyd's shoulder.
Fair enough. And we'll see if the issues actually affected the fight. Was there a moment for you that stood out, favorite moment of being a part of this? I mean, it's a real honor for you to be a part of the ESPN coverage as the lone MMA voice. That's a big deal. Was there a moment that stood out? I mean, we'll be talking about this for decades, I think. What about for you? Anything that really you walked away with?
You want to hear? You want to know? So when the fight's over, and ESPN had really cool sets. We're doing a lot of stuff outside, really hot, really uncomfortable. It's still very, very beautiful scenics. When the show gets over, we have a set outside of T-Mobile. You got to go up a special elevator, and then it's, you know, kind of on a rooftop type deal. Some guy comes up to me up there. He's dressed in a white shirt and he's got a bow tie. I thought he was the waiter for good reason. I mean, he looked like a waiter. He came up to me and he grabs me and he said some really nice things and we did a little selfie. It was about 20-second exchange. 1 minute later, security has him and yells to me, "Hey, Chael, do you know this guy?" I look up, it's the guy in the bow tie, and I say, "Yeah, I know him." And I go back to what I'm doing. I then hear security say to him, oh, okay, you're all right. You're with Chael. We didn't know that. Just make sure you stay behind this line. Well, then I'm going, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't know him like that. He's not with me. Some guy had snuck up. So I grab security. I pull him aside and I say, hey, when you asked me a moment ago if I knew that guy, I had just met him. I thought you were like going to introduce me or so. I had just met him. At that very moment, the dude rushes the stage, jumps in front of the camera, and appears live on ESPN. That's my most memorable moment.
I saw that guy with the Celtics hat who said, F the Mayweathers. That guy?
I'm the one that got him in there. I'm the one that turned to security. I'm sending a text. I look up to security. I see the button. Yeah, I know him.
Oh, my God.
I'm the reason that guy was. And then he makes me look like a scumbag. So.
That's
anyway,
great.
That was my moment. But I thought it was an incredible event. I thought it was an incredible night. Sure, yeah, it didn't sell out, but frankly, that's just because they priced their tickets too high. I mean, it was a big cash grab. They did incredible at the gate. And as far as the pay-per-view, I mean, it is what it is. Pacquiao and Mayweather did about 1.8 to 1.9 million. It got reported at 4.4. Welcome to the promotion business. That's still a great night.
And let me ask you this. He said afterwards, Conor did, I'm a free agent, which was such an interesting thing to hear him say because we all know he has 4 fights left on his UFC deal. If you're him, what do you do next? What do you think he does?
Well, I think he's going to fight in the UFC. You know, my respect for Conor goes up, but it goes up for different reasons than it does with other people. One thing I really, let's start at the beginning. One thing really cool about Conor McGregor, he stuck with his team. You know, nobody in boxing, nobody in MMA makes it from the streets to the big time and keeps their same coaches, same gym, and same teammates, even their same girlfriend. He did them all. He's just a real guy pursuing his dream. You know, he gets into this sport and he said something very cool. He's talking about Nate Diaz. I do think that Nate's going to be next. Little inside information. I'm sure you have the same information. I think that's going to go down in late December. But what I respect about Conor, and he actually brought this up with you when you guys did the one-man show, and he said, we got to one apiece. We got to go to the third. Well, that's a guy that respects the history of the sport. And as much as he's paving his own path, he is showing respect for tradition. And he's right. When you're one apiece, you go to the third. That's what the sport says. That's what history says. It's the right thing to do. I think he's going to do it.
You have some news to break. Before we get to that, I want to ask you quickly about a man you know a whole lot about. That was the big news. And he actually owes a debt of gratitude to Conor because he took the spotlight away from him. Jon Jones had another horrible week. Another black mark on his resume, if you will. What did you make? Knowing, I'm sure you know about the drug that was reported in his system. What do you make of this Jon Jones story now?
Yeah, so it's a little bit like Bill Clinton, to bring a good political example in it. When there was so much stuff surrounded you and something comes up every day, at some point, it just quits making news. And I think that Jon had that on his side. Maybe that's a good thing for him in the world of PR right now. Okay, Jon Jones failed another drug test. You know, it was kind of one of those situations. As far as what Trenbull, if I'm even saying that right, you'd have to go to a museum to find that. That's not something that a person would take. On the world of list of performance enhancers, it's probably number 8 on the list. And you might be thinking, well, 8, that's pretty good. Well, there's only about 10 things on that list. So to take that, you would traditionally take that in a stack. I can tell you, and I don't know what Jon did, I'm speculating off of what I've done. If they catch something like that, they missed the good stuff. So, yeah, he's got to deal with this. There's no contaminated substance or anything. This stuff's pretty hard to get, and it's pretty expensive if you do get it. The problem with this one is it's an illegal drug. And people always get confused on a banned substance versus an illegal. An illegal means if you're caught with it, they will put you in handcuffs. I'm talking about it's illegal. Pretty hard to get, pretty hard to find. I was surprised whoever gave him the advice and he listened to the whole thing. That part of it kind of caught me off guard.
So you think he's gone for 4 years probably?
Let's see what happens here. You know, I don't think in a time like this you could really use some friends. I don't think the words that he used leading up to the president, Dana White, before his last fight are going to help him very much in this situation. You know, if there's anything that Jon likes to do besides ban substances, it's burn bridges. I don't understand why he does that, but it's a time right now that he could use some friends, and I don't know that he's got them. He's probably going to look at more like 2 years. And we'll see if, I mean, what do you think it'll be for? He's got 2 fronts. He's got California to deal with, but he's also got USADA, and it's whichever one is higher is what he's got to deal with. I mean, what's your heart say?
I think he's facing it. I think it's a strong possibility. because it's multiple offenses. And I know the first time he got the max because they said he was reckless. And even if it goes back, so if he goes back to the reckless alibi, which it seems like that's what they're going to say tainted supplement. Okay, that's a minimum 2 because it's the second one. But as you've said in others, this is the kind of drug, it seems, that doesn't just show up. It doesn't just like you don't lace something with this. I'm no expert, and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But you're right. I mean, how many? Look, if DC came out and we found out that he failed, that's a shocker. But how many benefits of the doubt do you get? You know what I mean? From the public, from the commissions, from the regulators.
Yeah, and there's a couple schools of thought there, and I've seen guys go both ways with it, and some is just deny, and take it to your grave. I have found that commissions and public, the quicker you can come clean, the better. That's one guy's opinion, but it's mine. Jones is never going to do that in a million years. He's going to lie to his inner circle. He's going to take it to the grave, and a lot of times that will come back and bite you. So let's say when we're trying to guess human nature and psychology of what they're going to give him when he's in that room that day and has to say whatever he says. But I tend to think he'll probably get 2 years. I tend to think he'll get the lower side of it.
Do you think he was using when he fought you?
Well, all I can tell you is I had a higher juice concentrate than Tropicana, and he pushed me around like a Mack truck versus a Volvo. So I think for the better part of his career, that seems to be how it works. And I know for me, I know exactly the day I started taking banned substances, but I would never deny it. I've been competing since I was 9 years old, and if somebody wanted to go, well, his whole career's in question, it's like, yeah, there's really no point in telling it. Now, if you did a dishonest act, sometimes the most honest thing you can do is just say, yeah, you got me. So do I think he was? Sure, I knew what was going on the whole time. I can take one look at every single one of those guys and tell you not only who's using, but what they're using. But you don't say anything till the guy gets caught. There's a bit of a game there, and there's a bit of an honor amongst thieves, however that wants to sound to you. Take it how you will, but there it is.
All right. Submission Underground returns in October, correct? This is your promotion. You've had Jon Jones there before. You've had him compete against Dan Henderson, I think, back in January. And you've had plenty of events. You had recently Dylan Dennis against Jake Shields, et cetera, et cetera. You've got some news regarding Submission Underground, so the floor is yours. What do you got for us?
All right, returning to Flow Grappling, October 1st. Let's start. We're going to have almost 20 matches this night. Whoa. It's star-studded, black belts, up one down, up one side, down the next. For the main card, right out of the gate, Brian Maruga is taking on Andrew Marshall. Craig Jones is taking on Ben Egley. Andrew Alexander is taking on Joe Bays. In the co-main event, AJ Alazarn versus Phil Baroni.
What?
In the main event. Yeah, I knew you were going to love it.
I love Phil Baroni.
Thank you for the response. I knew you were going to pop on that.
Wow.
In the main event, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion Amanda Diggins is going to be taking on Strikeforce champion Sarah Kaufman.
Oh, yeah.
It's all going down October 1st. Errol, I'll be back to tell you all about it. Story behind every single one of these fights. These were match made largely for drama. Everybody's got an issue with the other one. If there's anything that's cool for fight night, it's that.
Wow. Wait, you got Baroni? That's worth, I don't know how much is this?
Baroni, it's worth $20, but it gets you 30 days. It's not a one-time window. It gets you a 30-day subscription. You'll be able to see the matches the next week. You're going to see Abu Dhabi the week before. Everything goes down at Flow Grappling. The guys at Flow Sports, man, this is how they do it. It's a network. It's an online network, not just small pay-per-view windows. That's one of the reasons we've had such success, but the business model is a little bit different. Do you love that? I really appreciate you popping that for that, Errol, because that is a big one.
That is a big one.
AJ Alazarn versus anybody and do well. I could say Baroni versus anybody, and they're going to do well numbers-wise. AJ versus Baroni, come on.
Baroni's a living legend. He was on my show last week. He stripped with Stephan Bonner. Looks to be in phenomenal shape. He's got the beard now, the long hair. He's newly divorced, so it seems like he's got a new lease on life. And wow, anytime. Listen, for me, Baroni is must-see TV. And I like the fact that he's involved in this because we've never really seen him in that light before. And I didn't know. You didn't tell me beforehand, so this is my initial reaction. And if I'm being honest, I like the fact that he's not getting punched in the head in this one. This is a win-win for all Baroni fans.
I appreciate that. That was exactly how I felt it. And, he's a college wrestler. He's won the Naga tournament a couple different times. I mean, he knows how to grapple. There's no way around it. Is this a hard match? I mean, come on, AJ. Yeah, you say what you want about AJ, but you can't question his skills. And I think they're going to have some fun leading into it too. I'm about having some fun. Let's go back to what we saw Saturday night with Conor and Floyd. Can't we have some fun every now and then? And I realize, Ariel, you and I that got to look at this from an integrity standpoint and a little bit different with the positions we sit in. But every now and then, once every 10 years, once every 15 years, let's just have some fun. Let's throw the rankings out. Let's throw everything out. Don't forget, Dana White was the last one to the table. The two fighters were begging for the fight. The media was begging for it. The fans were begging for it. And finally, Dana goes, okay, fine, I'll sign off on it. It's just not the way this sport gets done. The promoter's always the first to the table and got to bring in all of the other arms. It was a really neat evening. And then when you look at the way that Conor performed, Floyd Mayweather turned his back to him 4 times. You can't do that. And those crooked, incompetent judges still gave the rounds to Mayweather. There is so much story to this that isn't being told. I even saw Dana at the post-fight press conference almost a little bit down, and it's like, that's because he cares about his guy. Business was great, nothing changed, but he cares so much about his guy on an individual level. I feel like that those sides of the story never get told. You just get this cold-hearted promoter. But as we saw, Ariel, it's just not true. That's a real guy that went into a real battle with his guy, and they did great for 30 minutes. My goodness. It was an incredible performance by Conor.
I agree. A victory for all. Everyone wanted to hate it, and it seems for the most part, all sane-minded people walked away enjoying it. A great night for combat sports, MMA, and boxing included. Thank you, Chael. Phenomenal stuff on ESPN. Thanks for coming on and breaking that news, and good luck October 1st. We'll talk before then. Phil Baroni, yeah!
Phil Baroni's back. Kaboom!
There he is, Chael Sonnen. Great stuff, as always, from the American Gangster.